Well, in the first sprint race of the weekend, Hugo Cook and Morgan Tilbrook would line up on pole position, but as they got to the line, Hugo Cook, from second position on the grid, just had his nose ahead of Morgan Tilbrook. Was that a jump start? We would find out as the race wore on, but Hugo Cook and the Mercedes would take the lead from Morgan Tilbrook in second place. In Group GTH, there was a great battle going on. Philip Carter just slightly outbraking himself and getting into the side of Darren Kell. There was also a spin for Graham Tilley in the Mercedes. Simon Orange was very decisive into the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin, sneaking the McLaren up the inside of Ian Logie. The Ram Racing car would lose a position. Hugo Cook would come through to take the checkered flag first, but he was ultimately deemed to have jumped the start, so he was given a 10-second penalty. That would give the win to the Enduro Motorsport McLaren of Morgan Tilbrook, with Hugo Cook dropping to second on corrected times. Simon Orange would finish in third position, with Ian Logie and Mike Price, the two Ram Racing teammates, chasing each other to the line. In the second race of the weekend, Hugo Cook and Morgan Tilbrook were lined up on the front row of the grid, but as they worked their way down towards Redgate Corner for the first time, from the outside of the front row of the grid, Morgan Tilbrook would take the lead, whilst the green Mercedes of Mike Price was trying to sweep his way around the outside of Hugo Cook and steal second place away. It didn't quite work though. He would remain in third place as they went down towards the old hairpin for the first time, and that, I'm afraid, was where Mike Price was about to fall foul of cold tyres. The Mercedes would lose traction, it would spin through 180 degrees, thankfully staying out of everybody's way. He would get the car fired up, but would restart at the very tail end of the field. Patrick Collins would also disappear into the gravel trap, and Tamer Shahan would come in with a puncture at the wheel of the number 26 Paddock Motorsport McLaren. Cars working their way from the tail end of the grid would include Mike Price, who now managed to catch up with the rest of the GT3 field, but another mistake from him coming out of the Melbourne hairpin almost put his Mercedes into the barriers. There were also further problems for Tamer Shahan, who stopped out on track, and Tom Barrow retired the BMW in the pit lane. The pit window was now open, and as it opened, everybody was filing their way into the pit lane, including the number 36 car of Hugo Cook, driving solo this weekend. But as the pit window opened, also we had one car off, Patrick Collins, into the barriers. That would mean that everybody would dive for the pit lane, and thankfully, whilst under safety car, other cars were having problems, including the Ferrari, which lost a wheel. Great fight going on for second, third and fourth in Group GTH. Sam Neary carving his way through the field, but on the charge to the line, the overall win just went the way of Morgan Tilbrook and Marcus Clutton, chased all the way to the checkered flag by Simon Orange and Michael O'Brien, with Hugo Cook and Ian Logie in the two Mercedes finishing in what would be third and fourth places respectively.
So that's what happened yesterday, back to today, where we have got the 25-minute, hopefully, sprint race coming up for you very, very shortly. But before we do that, let's just have a look at the standings, because of course this is the penultimate weekend of racing. So let's see where we are on the points with the top 10 on the board. Just to run through a few of them, still sitting at the top of the leaderboard is Simon Orange and Michael O'Brien on 412 points. Just behind them, we've got Warren Gilbert, Jensen Lunn in second on 361 points. And currently in third position, although not actually racing this weekend, we've got Lucky Kira and David McDonald. They are literally just behind on 358 points. Now, yesterday's pit stop winners, Morgan Tilbrook and Marcus Clutton, they find themselves in fifth place on 290 points. And you can see there also Ian Logie, who had a good race yesterday. He's there in seventh position on 271 points. So that's sort of how your top 10 of the leaderboard is looking at the moment as we go into today's two races. There's clearly still all to play for. Those points really can change. It's very much dependent on what happens today. Just before we head out onto the grid, I had a chat to somebody, in fact, whose garage is right behind me now, who we're welcoming back to GT Cup. This weekend, GT Cup welcomes a new driver, but also a familiar face. Someone, in fact, that we heard last time at Silverstone, Sam Neary. It's lovely to have you back, and you're joined by Ed McDermott, so I'll come to you both. First of all, Sam, you are back, and it's great to have you back, of course. You're racing in GT4, though.
Yeah, this time in the GT4 Mercedes. It's a little bit slower than the GT3, but just as much fun. you probably have to hustle this car, which is a lot different to the GT3. But no, it's good to be back, so thank you for having me back.
Yeah, no, it's great. But by the way, great job on the commentary, though.
No, thank you. I think I'll stick to racing this time, though.
I don't know, but you did a great job. Ed, let's come to you. So you're not a stranger, obviously, to GT cars, but you are to GT Cup. So welcome, first of all. Lovely to have you here.
Thanks very much. Yeah, this is actually a year to the day when I had my first ever race here, which was a GT Cup weekend as well. And I actually saw these boys obviously racing. I think it wasn't quite the weekend you hoped for back then, but for us it was very exciting. And I knew at some stage this year I'd do some GT Cup. But we've been doing British, hadn't had a lot of luck into, we've had a lot of just million things go wrong, but
let's not talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's been an exciting year, but it's really nice to be here, and actually it's just a totally different experience. Quite a, I'd say, cohesive paddock, so everyone's getting on really well, which is really there's a really nice vibe. So it's lovely to be out doing it, and good to be out with these guys.
Well, absolutely, you are in good hands, of course, with Sam. So let's talk about the race yesterday, and in particular, because obviously the sprint race was cut short anyway, but with the pit stop race. You did rather well, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we both did really well. Ed's race pace just got better and better throughout the race, which is exactly what we wanted to see. And he started off again today in qualifying. He's done his fastest lap he's ever done, so that was really good. So hopefully we can work on that in the sprint race and endurance. But no, yesterday was fun. We got lucky with the safety car, I think, to negate that new entrant penalty, and then 6th to 2nd, I think, in 10 minutes. So no, I was happy, but it was all thanks to Ed. Getting us in that position, getting us ahead, made 4 lovely overtakes, so no, it was a really good race for us.
Yeah, superb, and you've had a great qualifier, obviously, Ed.
Yeah, it was certainly better than yesterday, but one of my crosses to bear is definitely my qualifying. It's not something I've been particularly good at so far this year, but it was certainly nice to put a better time in. I still felt, well, I definitely left at least half a second out there, but it's all about progression. I think Sam's being way too kind. I started the race a little bit slow and then got the bit between my teeth, and yeah, so always things to work on. But as far as the first year of racing goes, it's a nice way to sort of end that 12-month period. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you feeling then ahead of today's 2 races?
I feel good. We've got a great car. Rich, although he probably won't like to admit it, is having a lovely time running the car.
And I should just say, Rich being your dad, normally you're driving with him, aren't you? But he's now team manager.
Yeah, exactly. He's been team manager this weekend, and as Ed said, I think he is actually really enjoying it. Apparently he was running back and forward throughout the whole race yesterday, so no, I think he is enjoying it.
Yeah, so you're feeling good, you're feeling positive?
Yeah, feeling good. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's some really good quality drivers out there, so it's not, there's no walk in the park in any of this stuff, which is great, but it's really nice to be able to test yourself against people who, in almost all cases, have a lot more experience than me. So that's, any positive results that come, good things to reflect on. At the time, one's always frustrated that you didn't do a little bit better or you didn't do better, but it's great, and I'm having a good time. And Sam, it's nice to see Sam out with someone other than Rich, although Rich is a fierce competitor, but Sam's been amazing, and his pace was a joy to watch yesterday. So.
And is it a bit different now that you're not racing with your dad?
Yeah,
Dynamics?
Yeah, it's much better. To be honest, I'm sounding better.
I'll tell him you said that.
I think it's much better to be away from the sort of father-son aspect. I think I now need to sort of spread my wings and step away from my dad. And Ed's an up-and-coming AMP driver, definitely going to be one of the best in the next 2 years. I think definitely. So he's got potential. So no, it's nice to step away and to be racing with Ed. He's a good teammate.
Yeah, brilliant. Are you going to be driving in the sprint?
No, I'm a pro now, so not.
It's down to you for the sprint.
Yes, sadly, I've got to try and get us a decent position for the pit stop race. So I'll do my best, and that's all we can do.
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, have a fantastic day, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
This weekend sees the GT Cup Championship return to Donington Park, where it held its first rounds of the 2022 championship season. But that was on the shorter national circuit. This weekend, we're on the full Grand Prix layout. As for the circuit itself, it can trace its roots back to 1931, pre-war, when it first held motor racing. It's got 3 separate sectors that the circuit is broken into, and there are 11 different corners around what is a circuit just under 2.5 miles. With all of the undulation, it varies in altitude 40 metres from its highest to its lowest point. Sector 1 sees the cars through Redgate and Hollywood, Sector 2 from the Cranakers through the Old Hairpin and McLean's and Coppice, and Sector 3 sees them through the Fogarty S's, the Melbourne Hairpin, and back through the left-hander at Goddard's. That's a lap of the Grand Prix circuit here at Donington.
Thanks, Mark, for that track guide for Donington. Well, I was going to say that I'm in the pit lane and the cars are ready to go out, but as you can see, they've gone. The pit lane's open, they're heading out onto the tracks. I tell you what, come on, Kenny. I've got Kenny on camera with me today. He's going to follow me out onto here. So, yesterday, unfortunately, the sprint race was cut short, so we only actually had 15 minutes of racing, which is a real shame. Today, we're hoping to get the full 25 minutes. So, come with me. Here we go. Oh, I can't open that. Can you squeeze through, Kenny? Yeah, he's all right. Brilliant. Here we go. So out onto the tarmac where we've got everybody waiting, ready for our cars to take shape. So we'll just wander down here, actually, but we should see. Here we go. We've got some coming through. I think is that Sam Neary coming through there? Or not Sam, actually. That'll be Ed. No, it's not. It's the 39. One interesting one, and I don't know if Mark's there and can hear me, but the Veluga, hiya Mark, the Veluga Porsche that's done really quite well. Yesterday, it ended up not racing at all, is that right?
That's right, Michelle. Yeah, hi everybody. The number 50 Veluga Motorsport Porsche that James Wallace and Sam Mayer-Lachlan have done so well in this year.
Yeah.
We had that incident you said at the start of the sprint race. Well, when we were trying to get the cars back out of the pit lane and onto the grid following the delay, that car faltered at pit lane exit. There was just no drive in it, and it was a gearbox issue with the car, so that meant that the drivers that were leading Group GTH Championship standings coming into this weekend and are now 4th in the Championship standings scored no points yesterday. They weren't sure whether they'd get the car out today, but the Veluga team have worked tirelessly overnight, sorted the gearbox on the car, so the number 50 car is on the grid with what will be James Wallace driving it in this sprint race.
Yeah, I was just seeing if I can find where it is on here. I can't quite place myself. But literally, when I was out, before the cars came out, we were in garage number 1, and that's where the Veluga Porsche was, so I saw it and it was ready to go.
I think with where you're stood, when it arrives, it'll arrive directly behind you.
I think it might be here. That's what I'm sort of hoping, which is why I'm hovering. Let's just see. So we've got the number 9. There's Jensen Lunn, Charlotte Gilbert's car, and we should just have the number 50. It's just behind me, isn't it? It's here. Here we go. Let's just go have a little look while we're here. So there it is, the white Veluga GTH Porsche. You can see it's got the fabulous gold wheel trims as well that I do rather love. So it's great that that car is now out and they've worked so hard to get it here. We have got a pretty full grid actually, which is looking fantastic. I know that we have got to remind myself who's in pole position now. I know that we've got Cook at number 2, haven't we?
Morgan Tilbrook. Yeah, it's Morgan Tilbrook starting for pole.
Because they had the brilliant race, didn't they, yesterday as well, and obviously did superb in qualifying.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the pros can't take part in this sprint race, so Marcus Club, who shares the car with Morgan Tilbrook, can't race because the pros cannot get involved in the sprint racing.
Absolutely, which is of course why Sam Neary, who's now gone pro, is not racing, and we've got Ed, who's taking the wheel for this sprint race, who we were talking to just a moment ago.
I like the fact that you complimented him on his commentary, and you've yet to do that to me, Michelle. So I know where I stand. Don't worry. You don't need me to tell you how good you are, Mark. I mean, you're average. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Do you know what? I'd be lost without you, Mark, because you're brilliant. You know that, and you bought me carrot cake, birthday carrot cake. So
happy
you
birthday.
get extra brownie points for that. Top of the leaderboard for that. So I'm just wandering past the car number 23 here, which is the Greystone GT car, and we're almost at the front line. Here we have. This is a car car actually I'm not so familiar with, Mark, which is the number 36. It's a GT3 car. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, Hugo has been racing that car in other championships in the UK. We saw him out at Silverstone for the first time in the GT Cup Championship. So, yeah, he's a young man, very, very quick. And in the previous race at Silverstone, he shared that car with Marcus Clutton, who is sharing with Morgan Tilbrook this weekend. But Hugo's driving solo this weekend.
Oh, he is? Oh, OK, so hopefully we'll have a little catch-up with him. And I've just noticed this is rather lovely a feature on a lot of the cars at the moment. I saw it on the Porsche, actually, the Beluga Porsche. But we've got these lovely stickers and decals for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as well, which I think is a really lovely, lovely touch. And a lot of cars have done that, which is fantastic. And then, of course, we have our leader over here, the number 66, which is... Morgan Tilbrook and Marcus Clutton's car, which is here. That's it, you heard it, it's clear the grid, so we are going to go racing, everybody. Here we go. Mark, it's over to you for our first race of the day, the sprint race.
Thank you very much. Yep, thanks, Michelle. So the grid being cleared in advance of our sprint race. The car that starts on pole position is as yet to be beaten this weekend. Morgan Tilbrook, driving solo, won the sprint race yesterday on corrected times. Himself and Marcus Clutton sharing the car in a pit stop race, won that yesterday. So they've now got 5 overall wins so far this year, 6 group wins over the course of this season. And the reason there's a difference between those two is because one of their group wins came when a Group GTO car won overall. So they were still the winners of Group GT3, but they didn't win the race overall on that occasion. You can see it's starting to feel a little bit cooler still now as well. We were hovering around 16 degrees for most of yesterday, slightly cooler today, still a bit of a breeze as they head off on their formation lap. We will very shortly be able to guide you through the grid and the way that they will line up for this third race of the weekend. We'll tell you the starting drivers. Morgan Tilbrook starts from pole with Hugo Cook alongside. And row 2 of the grid is Simon Orange and Ian Campbell. On to row number 3. On the inside of the third row, it's Ian Loggy, who is accompanied by his Ram Racing teammate, Mike Price. And the row 4 of the grid is Steve Ruston, who has got Graham Tilley's Mercedes for company. On to row number 5. On the inside, it is Rich Mason at the wheel of the Lamborghini that had issues yesterday. Andre Borodin sits alongside. And row number 6 of the grid, it's Tom Webb in the number 13 car alongside Charlotte Gilbert, who starts for Top Cats Racing. The 7th row of the grid, it is James Kell and Tim Kresick, who is driving solo today, as he did yesterday, but we were unaware of that at the occasion. Stephen Walton and James Wallace line up on row number 8. The 9th row of the grid, it's the Welshman, Tom Roach, that has Patrick Collins for company. And on row number 10, it's the man we've just been talking to, Ed McDermott, that lines up alongside the Ferrari of Roy Millington. Row number 11 of the grid, Mark Hopton and Phil Carter in the 2 Greystone cars, with row 12 being Alex Stevenson and Chris Murphy at the wheel of the Whitebridge BMW. And row 13 of the grid, it's Paul Maxted that has David Franklin's Audi for company. And off the back of the grid, it's returning to the championship, Sam Randon at the wheel of the Top Cats Racing Ginetta for this weekend. And that's the way that they line up for our sprint race here, which is the first of 2 races this weekend. This will be round 21 of the championship. And say after this, they've got their pit stop race to come up a little bit later on today, before we then pack things away and head to Norfolk at Snetterton for what will be the final 4 races of the 2022 championship season. So the safety car just bringing them round through the Grand Prix loop, so through turns 9 and 10 in reality, which is the left and the right flick at the S's. And then from there, it's down towards the old hairpin, that downhill braking area, before they then head back up the hill again in the opposite direction, up towards Goddard's, which is turn number 12, the final corner here on the Grand Prix circuit, which is just under, as I said, 2.5 miles. To be absolutely accurate, it's 2.4873 miles is the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. So the last little bit of weaving to be done to control the tyre temperatures in their Pirelli slick tyres that they all run. They're all limited to just 3 sets of slick tyres over the course of any one race day. So you've got to make sure that you don't overwork the tyres in some of the races to make sure you've still got some decent tyres left at the end of the weekend. So the McLaren of Morgan Tilbrook starts from pole. The red and black Mercedes of Hugo Cook sits alongside. It's Simon Orange and Ian Campbell in the 2 McLarens on row number 2. 25 minutes are on the clock. We're about to get round 21 of the 2022 GT Cup Championship underway here at Donington Park. The lights go out and they head up towards Redgate Corner. It looks as though it's a good start from Morgan Tilbrook from pole position. The light blue Lamborghini of Tom Webb weaving around in the background, but up towards Redgate Corner they'll go, and it's Morgan Tilbrook that leads the way. Hugo Cook slots into 2nd position. And as they then head onto the top of Hollywood and down through the Craner curves, we'll pick out who's there in third place. I think it was still Simon Orange that was there in third. Indeed it is, with Ian Logie now in fourth place, having got ahead of Ian Campbell at the wheel of the number 23 Greystone McLaren. It has dropped down into fifth position, but everybody is safely through the first third of a lap as the tail end of the field now work their way out of what is the old hairpin. The race leaders are already up at McLean's corner, and Hugo Cook there in second place. For me, just looked to run a very, very short amount wide there. Missed the apex at the corner and was almost off into the dirty aspect of the tarmac there, but he gathered it up. He hangs on to second. There's the number 22 car. That's Rich Mason, who didn't get to race the Lamborghini. He's been racing in GT4 machinery with Greystone for a year or two now, but the Lamborghini had issues in the sprint race yesterday and couldn't be repaired at the track, so they've worked on it overnight and got the Lamborghini back out. But that particular number 22 Lamborghini is a GT3 spec car. We have other Lamborghinis in the field, but they are not GT3. They run to Lamborghini Super Trofeo specification, so they sit in Group GTC rather than Rich Mason's car, which is in Group GT3. So through the Melbourne hairpin for the first time. Andre Borodin with Group GTH cars queuing up behind him. The two Greystone cars almost side by side. Philip Carter getting the jump on Mark Hopton there. And they're about to complete lap number 1 as they head round through Goddard's corner and then work their way up to the completion of the first lap of the race. Look at this train of cars coming over the start-finish line. We might have lost a couple of cars with issues yesterday, including Tom Barrow's BMW, but it's still a very full grid and in a straight line. Roy Millington at the wheel of the Ferrari has more power than the cars around him. Can't quite, though, sneak up the inside of the two Group GTH cars, which was Tom Roach fighting away with the number 69 Make Happen Racing Mercedes there of Stephen Walton. Tom Roach has made it through, so the Paddock Motorsport McLaren goes ahead of the Make Happen Racing Mercedes. Roy Millington at the wheel of the Ferrari still amongst the Group GTH cars at this stage. His Ferrari sits in Group GTC because it's a Ferrari Challenge spec 488. And then not that far behind him is the number 17 McLaren, which will be Patrick Collins, who had mixed fortunes yesterday with an off and into the gravel and then was dragged back out and could continue in the race, so he'll be hoping for better fortunes today. But the race lead will go in the way of Morgan Tilbrook, who has opened up nearly a second gap between himself and Hugo Cook after just one lap of racing. So down the straight in towards the braking area for the S's. This is the opportunity for Roy Millington to try and sneak the Ferrari through and ahead of Stephen Walton. Yep, in a straight line. The Group GTC Ferrari has more power than the Group GTH Mercedes. Group GTH caters for the GT4 homologated cars, so it's not surprising the Ferrari goes through. And now we're trying to set his sights about Tom Roach just up the road. So over the start-finish line come the leading packs of cars. Graham Tilley coming towards us, but out front it is Morgan Tilbrook leading the way. The gap first to second did come down by a tenth of a second last time through, as on the first flying lap the number 36 Mercedes of Hugo Cook in second place set the fastest lap of the race. Simon Orange there in third, Ian Logie fourth, Ian Campbell fifth, and then it's going to be Steve Ruston that's there in sixth position, with Mike Price in the light green Mercedes not too far behind. But for the lead of the race, Hugo Cook is edging ever closer towards the coattails of the McLaren, which, remember, is as yet to be beaten so far this weekend. 2 wins from 2 yesterday, albeit one of them came as a result of a time penalty for the car that is trying to hunt down the lead. Look in the background, Simon Orange off very wide. That's the championship leading car overall that ran very wide there, Simon Orange, but largely got away with that. Wet grass, it would have been a very different story, but dry grass here at Donington Park this weekend, he maintains what is third position, but he's got to try and clean up those dirty and dusty Pirellis now. So through the Melbourne hairpin he'll go. Simon Orange, member, is a former champion in the GT Cup. That was a season or so ago now where he scooped up the championship back in 2020. And at the moment, himself and Michael O'Brien have had a stellar season, really. 7 wins so far this season they've had in their group. They've had 5 overall wins, but they sit there third currently. Car in second place, though, Hugo Cook, is not eligible for championship points at the moment, so Simon Orange will be well aware of that. And whilst he sits third on the road, he would still pick up the points for second in reality, because the number 36 Mercedes is not going to score any points. And that is problems potentially. Was it for Andre Borodin? That car seemed to be very slow coming out of what was the Melbourne hairpin there. It now seems to have picked up speed, so I think that was a tail end of a spin that he just recovered from there, Andre Borodin. So we'll see. Yeah, he lost 4 places on that lap, so that looks like a spin to me. So Here we're looking at the number 44 car of Steve Ruston. That's another former champion, Steve Ruston. He was a champion back in 2019 in GT Cup. An off, I'm afraid. And that is Mark Hopton that's had an off. So he has caused damage to the front right-hand corner of the McLaren. That is coming out of the Melbourne hairpin. That was the point at which we saw Andre Borodin going slowly as well. So is that connected between the pair of them, or did one react to the other, or is there some fluid down? Simply don't know at this stage, but this is the area where the race leaders are just going past now. So there should be localised yellow flags at this part of the circuit, but I think Mark Hopton's car is sufficiently far off the road so as not to require a safety car. And that's a huge, huge shame for Mark Hopton, because himself and Ewan Hankey claimed a group win yesterday in the pit stop race at the wheel of that car. Over the start-finish line they'll go. Morgan Tilbrook maintaining the lead advantage of around about 0.9 of a second between himself and Hugo Cook. And it's Simon Orange in third, Ian Logie fourth, Ian Campbell fifth. The light green Mercedes is Mike Price, who now moves up to sixth. Graham Tilley is seventh. The number 44 McLaren Steve Ruston is eighth. And the leader of Group GTC is that light blue Lamborghini. That is in the hands of Tom Webb. He leads Group GTC at this stage. But if he looks in his mirrors, he'll see that Charlotte Gilbert is not that far behind. And the Top Cats Racing with Hex.com number 9 Lamborghini had a good day yesterday in terms of the haul of championship points, but at the moment it's the Team Webb Lamborghini that leads Group GTC. And if you're wondering what Group GTC is for, it is for the newer Challenge specification cars. So it scoops up the likes of Ferrari Challenge cars, Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars. It also includes some Porsche Cup cars as well, for which we don't have any Porsche Cup cars, at least in the entry list for this weekend. But all of those are not built to GT3 homologation, they're built to specific individual manufacturer homologation for their one-make series. Good fight going on in Group GTH. Patrick Collins trying to fend off the aspirations of the number 8 Team ABBA GT4 car of Ed McDermott, that Michelle was interviewing earlier on. So it's having a good run at the moment. Where is that car in its group? At this stage, it is sitting 7th in Group GTH at the moment. And has got behind it the Group GT3 Rich Mason driven Lamborghini, which seems to have dropped down through the order a little bit. That car started in 9th place, and Rich is now circulating in 21st, so he may have had an issue somewhere, because his car is somewhere adrift to where it ought to be, and he should fairly easily work his way past the GTH traffic now. Group GT3 Lamborghini with far more power, significantly better aero, and yeah, whatever the problem is that dropped Rich down through the order, he's now carving his way back up. So having dealt with Ed McDermott, the next car he'll deal with will be Patrick Collins. For the lead of the race, though, you could see the cars almost sliding their way out of McLean's corner that time through. Morgan Tilbrook having to work hard here, because Hugo Cook last time through set the fastest lap of the race we've seen so far. 1 minute 28.701 for the car that sits there in second place and is trying to hunt down the number 66 McLaren for the lead. 0.4 of a second was the gap as they came over the start-finish line. It looks as though that gap has largely stabilised over the course of this lap. Hugo Cook was slightly quicker through the first third of it, but Morgan Tilbrook was slightly quicker through the second third of the lap. So that gap will have changed a great deal by the time they come over the start-finish line this time through. And this will be the end of lap number 6 they're about to conclude. So onto the brakes, through the left-hander at Goddard's, and then accelerating their way back over the start-finish line. 6 laps completed. 0.5 of a second between the pair of them. Morgan Tilbrook that time through sets the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 28.380. So the gap just extends, not by much, just by 1/10 of a second from first to second place. And now 3 3/4 seconds back in third is the championship leading car in the hands of Simon Orange at the wheel of the Orange Racing powered by JMH McLaren 720S. So 15 minutes just over of the race to go. Remember, the fastest laps set in this race will give us ultimately the way the grid will shape up for the pit stop race later on today. So important there that Morgan Tilbrook has just set that fastest lap of the race, because at the moment, if things remain as they are, it would be that number 66 McLaren that would start from pole later on. But Hugo Cook and maybe Simon Orange and others might have other ideas about that. Over the start-finish line, the 2 Porsches busy fighting away. Now, both of those sit in Group GTH. Tim Kresick driving solo this weekend for Caffeine 6 with Par Motorsport, being hunted down by the number 50 Veluga car, which is in the hands of James Wallace. That's going to be for 12th and 13th overall, but this will be 2nd and 3rd in Group GTH at the moment for the GT4 spec cars. Leading the group, however, will be the number 39 Mercedes. Ed McDermott just managing to sneak through and ahead of Patrick Collins, so that will be a change for position there. So that is a change for 18th and 19th position. Ed McDermott gaining the place, moving up to 6th in Group GTH. Down to 7th in the group goes the orange McLaren of Patrick Collins, who is sharing the car with Will Dendy, who claimed a group win yesterday. Whether they share the car in the pit stop race later on today, we'll have to wait and see once we get the confirmed driver lineups for that pit stop race. But that number 17 McLaren has gone well, and we'll have to wait and see as to whether he can now hang on to the position, or whether he's going to get gobbled up by the next of the cars which is behind, which is Alex Stevenson. Rich Mason's progress continues as well at the wheel of the GT3 Lamborghini, having his first real race really in it, say because of the problems that befell that car yesterday in the sprint race. Only today is Rich getting the opportunity to drive it really for the first time, partnered up with the pro driver John Lancaster. John is a former European Le Mans Series champion, so plenty of experience for John Lancaster, less so for Rich Mason, who's only in his really second year of driving GT cars. Came out of track days with Greystone GT. Did a bit of motocross though, did Rich, back in the 1990s. And yeah, totally new car for him to get to grips with, this Lamborghini. So through he goes. Look in the background, Patrick Collins has lost the further place there. The Ginetta G56 of Alex Stevenson has gone through and ahead of the orange McLaren, and now queuing up behind it is the number 3 Ginetta, which is the G55 in the hands of Sam Randon. Good to have Sam back in the championship. Finished as the champion in Group GTB a couple of years ago, back in 2020. And now he is hounding the McLaren that lies ahead. Is he going to be able to sneak his way through? Yep, dives up the inside. The Top Cats Racing with Hex.com. Ginetta goes through, takes the place away. And now that means that Sam is up into what will be 21st position overall and continues to lead Group GTA, which for this weekend has 2 entries, both Ginetta G55s. One is the Sam Randon driven car, the other one is Paul Maxfield's, which is a little bit further drift. Side by side for the lead of the race. Morgan Tilbrook under huge pressure. Hugo Cook, 2 wheels on the grass coming out of McLean's corner. He's going to pick up the lead of the race. Is he going to run wide at Coppice? Yes, he does, onto the grass. And Morgan Tilbrook goes back through and instantly retakes the lead. Brilliant stuff. Now, that must have been down to back markers that they got themselves that close together. They just wiggled their way through and past another former champion, Chris Murphy, at the wheel of the Beamer. So that might have been the catalyst for a bit of change there. But Hugo Cook threw everything at that overtake, but carried a bit too much speed up towards Coppice, and Morgan Tilbrook instantly reversed the order. So they've got more traffic to deal with now. Phil Carter's McLaren is the next of those that they want to try and squeeze their way through and pass. They've also got Patrick Collins at the wheel of the number 17 McLaren to try and gap as well. They'll both want to clear the back markers as quickly as they can, and they both managed to sneak through at Goddard's corner. But again, having cleared the 2 McLarens, look up the road. 2 Ginettas now to deal with, the first of which is Sam Randon's, the next of which is going to be the Group GTC V8 engined G56 of Alex Stevenson. Now, where is Morgan Tilbrook going to meet these cars? Down through the Craner curves would be less than ideal, but that's where he's going to meet them, I'm afraid. So he jinks out from behind Sam Randon, squeezes his way through down through the Craner curves. Hugo Cook follows him onto the brakes. He gets bottled up behind Alex Stevenson's car as Hugo Cook spins, and he's going to go into the gravel trap down there at the old hairpin. He's non-championship scoring this weekend, but he'd want a good result, and I'm afraid the Mercedes is beached in the gravel and he's going nowhere. And it was just a small mistake under braking as they met the back markers, and I think he either dipped a wheel onto the grass or onto the dirty tarmac and then just didn't have the adhesion he was expecting there, Hugo Cook. So small mistake, big consequence, out of the race. That now means that Simon Orange moves up into 2nd place, and that car there, the Ram Racing Mercedes of Ian Loggy, is up into 3rd position. The good thing for Morgan Tilbrook is he now enjoys the best part of a 5-second lead almost between himself and the car in 2nd place, Simon Orange. Now, is Hugo Cook's car, with its positioning down in the gravel trap there, going to bring out about a safety car? It wasn't in the safest of places. And yep, the SC boards are flashing. The safety car is on standby. We are going to go full course caution. So that does mean that Morgan Tilbrook is no longer now going to enjoy that 5-second lead, because that is going to be gobbled up and disappear to nothing. But thankfully for Morgan Tilbrook, who comes over the start-finish line now, there is a back marker car, which is Ed McDermott's car, that is between himself and the 2nd place number 67 McLaren of Simon Orange. So that is at least a little bit of a buffer that will exist between Morgan Tilbrook and Simon Orange when the two McLarens roll their sleeves up and slug it out for the lead of the race. Simon Orange has also got a backmarker car, Sam Randon's white Ginetta, between himself and the third place car of Ian Loggy. And Ian Loggy has got two backmarker cars, Alex Stevenson's Ginetta and the orange McLaren, between himself and the fourth place car in the race, which is Ian Campbell's McLaren. Has Ian Campbell got any back markers between himself and Mike Price? Yes, there is. There's Philip Carter's number 14 McLaren that is the back marker between himself and Mike Price. So yeah, all of those that are first, second, third, fourth and fifth all have back marker traffic between themselves and the car that they're ultimately going to do battle with as and when we get the incident cleared down there at the old hairpin. So 9 minutes to go. Let me run you through the order whilst we're under safety car, and we'll pick out the group leaders as well. So leading the race and leading Group GT3 is the number 66 car of Morgan Tilbrook. Second is Simon Orange, and third is Ian Loggy. Fourth is the McLaren, number 23, in the hands of Ian Campbell. Fifth is number 11, which is Mike Price, and sixth is 4, which is Graham Tilley. Seventh is number 44, which is Steve Rust, and all of those cars in the top 7 are all in Group GT3. In 8th place is the first non-Group GT3 car. That is the Group GTC leading car of Tom Webb, which is the light blue Lamborghini Huracan, as Hugo Cook's car is dragged through the gravel trap. 9th place is going to be the car that's second in Group GTC, which is the number 9 Top Cats Racing with Hex.com Lamborghini in the hands of Charlotte Gilbert. And I think those two cars, yeah, are together. You can see the light blue Lamborghini with its lights on at the back of the shot, and then the Top Cats Racing car of Charlotte Gilbert right behind it. So that will be a battle to watch out for 8th and 9th in the lead of Group GTC. And completing the top 10 is the Group GTH leading car, which is going to be the number 39 Mercedes of James Kell. So that picks out another group leader. The only other group leader that we've got that is not inside the top 10, there are two of them, one of which is down in 20th position, the Group GTA leader Sam Randon, and also the number 72 BMW will be the Group GTB leading car in 24th position, which will be Chris Murphy, the former champion. So that picks out all of the group leaders for you at this stage. The safety car is going to continue around, I think, for one further lap. Don't think we quite got the incident cleared in time, so safety car will continue round for a further lap at this stage. You can see them all weaving from side to side, trying to maintain tyre and brake temperature for what is a slightly cold day still today. Certainly a lot cloudier. Yesterday we had beautiful blue sky all day, but today overcast, I'm afraid to say, here at Donington Park. And hopefully this should be the last lap behind the safety car, I would have thought. So down through the Craner curves, past the stricken car of Hugo Cook, and you can see there McLean's Corner. Those are spits of rain that are there on the lens. I said that it had clouded over, but clearly those grey skies have got a few spits of rain in them. Now, it doesn't look as though it is really dark skies, but there's definite spits on the camera, both down at the old hairpin, you can see a couple there, and at McLean's Corner. So that may well just affect the conditions. Yeah, McLean's definitely worse, isn't it? Up at McLean's Corner, the spits of rain. Now, shouldn't be too bad at the moment because it's not really wetting the tarmac. The tyres also have temperature, so they should be able to deal with it, but if the clouds come in any more, begs the question in 6 minutes as to what the conditions might look like and how much they might potentially deteriorate. So I think the lights will probably go out on the safety car this time through. They won't be extinguished just as yet. It will happen just as the car comes out of the S's, the BMW safety car. That's when we should see the lights go out. Remember, the car that leads the race is the first of those behind the safety car. The car that is second in the race is the fourth car in the queue in reality, which is Simon Orange at the wheel of the dark blue and orange McLaren. And he has now got Ian Loggy right behind him, so I think maybe they've sort of rejiggled the order themselves because some cars maybe didn't quite react as quickly to the safety car as others. And you can see, yeah, wipers are going now, so the drivers are certainly feeling as though the conditions are altering and deteriorating. And this could make the final 5 and a bit minutes enormously interesting. Now, the frustration for Simon Orange will be is that he can't overtake the two backmarker cars until the start-finish line. So Morgan Tilbrook can get on the throttle almost immediately if he wants to. I think he'll go nice and early. Yeah, he's off already. And the Group GTH and the Group GTA Mercedes and Ginetta respectively can't be overtaken by Simon Orange until the control line. So this should hand Morgan Tilbrook quite a comfortable advantage. Yeah, so over the start-finish line goes Morgan Tilbrook. Simon Orange will now try and get on with things as he sneaks through and up the inside of Sam Randon heading in towards Redgate Corner. So that's one of the back markers dealt with, but he's still got to deal with the other one on the exit of the corner. So now the key will be where you meet the traffic, how you deal with these changing conditions as well, because they really have deteriorated down at that bottom part of the circuit. You can see it's certainly greyed up. It looks as though there's far more moisture down there, down at the lowest section of the circuit. But are the drivers going to be able to cope with it? Big mistake by Ed McDermott as he bounces the Team ABBA Mercedes over the grass. Needs to be careful how he rejoins. That will have dropped him down through the order. But up towards McLean's corner, there we'll go. And you can see, yeah, it's definitely raining up at this top section of the circuit, isn't it? A few little sprinkles of rain to start with, but now I think it's properly drizzling up at that section of the circuit. So it's a voyage into the unknown, corner by corner, lap by lap. The conditions are going to change. And every driver has almost got to second guess, based on what they can see, what they can feel, how much traction there's going to be. You can see them all treading very gingerly as they head up towards Coppice Corner. Blind entry to that corner, very easy to skitter wide, and I'm afraid off has gone Graham Tilley and into the barriers down at the old hairpin. Damage to the TechServe Mercedes. Hopefully that will be repairable for later on today. And Morgan Tilbrook almost outbraked himself heading in towards the Melbourne hairpin. So that gives more than a glimmer of hope now to Simon Orange. It's McLaren from McLaren by the look of things, because Ian Loggy, I think, has dropped out of third place. Has he had a problem somewhere? Because I did not see his car go through the Melbourne hairpin there. Yeah, there is Ian Loggy in the background. He's had issues. And also now Simon Orange runs onto the curb and really slows his progress heading on towards what is the Wheatcroft Straight, which allows Ian Loggy to try and draw himself, Ian Campbell rather, to draw himself alongside. Can't quite make it stick. So Morgan Tilbrook now, through all of this, has really extended his lead. It's nearly 3 seconds now, the lead advantage for Morgan Tilbrook with a couple of laps to go. He seems to be dealing with the conditions. Others struggling to a degree. Now that may be down to how comfortable they feel in these changeable conditions, or the setup of the car, because again Simon Orange runs wide and Ian Campbell has a spin coming out of the old hairpin. Let's hope that he doesn't make contact with Graham Tilley's stricken car. Thankfully it stops in time, and Simon Orange now has a spin as well, the car that leads the championship through Schwantz Curve. Conditions must be getting far worse every single corner, because it's now just catching out car after car after car. The car in second's got caught out, the car in third has got caught out. You can see, compared to what they should be doing at that part of the circuit, they are almost at a snail's pace to try and keep the car on track. So that's going to promote Steve Ruston now up into what is second position. On off goes Sam Randon, and Sam Randon has got huge amounts of experience. It's caught him out also at Coppice Corner. He's going to rally across his way back onto the track. Is he going to hang on to the lead of Group GTA though by the time he gets back onto the tarmac? So you can see conditions now very different to they were at the start of the race. We've still got a couple of minutes to go. All of these cars on slicks on a very wet track. You can see Morgan Tilbrook almost at a snail's pace heading round through the Melbourne hairpin to try and keep the car on track. Look at it, traction as it tries to break away from him heading up towards Goddard's corner. They are on an absolute knife edge, and Morgan Tilbrook is going to be heading on to what will be the final lap of the race in theory this time through. So let's just wait and see as he goes over the start-finish line. Is the checkered flag going to come out early? No, we're going to go full duration. So onto the last lap of the race goes Morgan Tilbrook, and he will now have a colossal lead between himself and the car that's in second place, which should be the number 44 McLaren of Steve Ruston in second position. But this has really shaken up the order, these conditions. And Ian Campbell's had another spin coming out of Goddard's this time. The number 23 McLaren spins and almost makes contact with the concrete wall on the inside. So Steve Ruston is second, Ian Loggy is third, Mike Price in the light green Mercedes is now up into fourth place, and the Group GT Ceiling car is up to fifth. Andre Borodin has a spin as well. That's at Goddard's corner at the wheel of the Greystone GT McLaren. So many people getting caught out in these tricky conditions, but for the moment Morgan Tilbrook is just about able to cope with them. He heads through Goddard's for the final time up towards the right-hander, and then as he gets on the brakes as gently as he can, feeds the car in towards the corner. You can see visually The lap times are just nowhere near where they ought to be. Just look, even mid-corner there, tiny squirt of the throttle, the car moves around, and Morgan Tilbrook is dealing with these conditions better than anybody else has managed so far. Let's hope, heading in towards the S's and down through the final few corners, he maintains that as well, because we've had so many cars make mistakes. And even then again, in the background, championship leading car Simon Orange again almost off, heading round through McLean's corner. This has been an unbelievable race, round 21 of the GT Cup Championship. A couple of corners to go. Off has gone Tim Kresick as well at the wheel of the Caffeine 6 with Par Motorsport Porsche. But for Morgan Tilbrook, one more corner to go, one more corner, and it means that then if he makes that towards the checkered flag, this car will be unbeaten so far this weekend. You could see even then the car struggling to turn through the left-hander at Goddard's. They'll all be pleased to see the checkered flag, but Morgan Tilbrook will be delighted to see it, because that means that he is going to scoop up another win in the GT Cup Championship. That's 5 overall wins, plus that one, 6 for the season. And that is going to put them in a handy position in the championship. And yes, they haven't even done every single round as well, so that will help with their, not championship aspirations, because that's going to be a tough call. A spin for the car that leads the Group GTH Championship and had problems yesterday. That is James Wallace at the final corner. So we've had, I think, more spins than you can shake a stick at in this one, but just going to show, you know, some very experienced drivers all getting caught out in tricky conditions. There's only so much that a slick tyre can do in the rain. When the rain comes down, it's all about survival, and thankfully I think they have all largely survived, including Paul Maxfield in the background, who was more than sideways coming out of the final corner. So they'll all be pleased to see the checkered flag. But Morgan Tilbrook is going to head over the start-finish line, and that is now 3 wins out of 3 races this weekend for Morgan Tilbrook. Steve Ruston will come through in second, and Ian Loggy will finish in 3rd place. And for Steve Ruston, that is a season's best for that number 44 McLaren. They will be as pleased as punch with that one. We've not, I don't think, seen them on the podium overall this season, so to finish in 2nd place in a tricky race, hats off to Stephen. And also hats off to all of them, because I think whilst we had lots of spins, I think other than Graham Tilley's car going into the barriers, I think everybody else largely in those tricky conditions avoided any damage. So we should be able to give you some provisional results for that race. We'll wait for the official results later on, but the provisional results: Morgan Tilbrook claims the win with Steve Ruston in 2nd place, and Ian Loggy in 3rd. In 4th place was the winner of Group GTC, that was Tom Webb, and 5th was the winner of Group GTH, the number 39 Mercedes of James Kell. Tom Roach was there in 6th place, ahead of Mike Price in 7th, and Simon Orange, the championship leading car, finished in 8th in the end, ahead of James Wallace, who even with a spin at the final corner finished in 9th, and the Ferrari of Roy Millington wraps up the top 10. In 11th place, it was Stephen Walton, with Ian Campbell having a couple of spins, dropping to 12th in the end. Charlotte Gilbert finished in 13th. Tim Kresick finished in 14th. It was Rich Mason, Andre Borodin, Sam Randon, Patrick Collins, Phil Carter and Paul Maxted that completed the top 20. So that was the first of our sprint races from the GT Cup Championship. And Michelle, it's fair to say, changeable conditions.
Oh my goodness me, so changeable that I've put my big coat on with the hood and I've hidden in the garage. And you were saying about the spins, Mark. I'd say more spins than Mark Werrell on the dance floor at a disco.
I didn't realise you'd seen my moves, Michelle.
It certainly was an incredibly eventful end of the sprint race. So that's it for our live coverage at the moment. Congratulations to Morgan Tilbrook on a fantastic race and a superb win. Commiserations to Hugo Cook, of course, who spun out. We will be back with our pit stop, the endurance race, much longer, which is scheduled to go out at 4 o'clock. Of course, things can change. Sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late. Keep up to date with everything on our social media channels. That's Facebook, Instagram, GT Cup. Just look for it. And also, of course, on our YouTube channel. Hopefully, the weather will clear up a little bit for that. Fingers crossed. So we'll see you in a few hours' time. But for now, it's goodbye.